Yo, there's something beautiful about Bearcats basketball. High flying.
Kenyon with a jam.
Shot denying.
Miles rejected.
There's just an energy that comes with the Cats. A rich history built on toughness.
And Mick Cronin looks like he wants a technical.
A bring-your-own-lunch pail mentality. For a long time, UC was the hunted.
I felt that we couldn't lose.
I think it's time the Bearcats do a little hunting of their own.
Once y'all done with them, send them to me, man. You know what I mean? We can put them on the court. Keep that Bearcat thing going.
I am fired up.
Takes it all the way. Oh! It's going to be Little.
I wonder how Steve Logan would be over in Afghanistan or somewhere. I bet he'd be pretty poised. He just does not get rattled.
Man, Exo, he'll cut it loose. Watch out. Stevenson cuts it about. Oh! Kilpatrick outruns everybody. Johnson, the exclamation point.
We've been dealt the king of heartbreak over and over again.
Rozier. Smith and...
Everything they worked for was undone on one play.
But I see the light. The Cats are back. Lacocious. Open.
They're not back. Are you kidding me? You think I'm going to finish that intro video? You think I'm going to finish that intro video, Houdini? Welcome to Chatterbox Bearcats. I guess all that Bearcats basketball is relishing in the glory from the past, because what we're watching right now is not serious basketball. Baylor 68, Cincinnati 48. The Bearcats dropped their third in a row. They fall to 0-3 in the Big 12. But forget the fact that they've lost to some good teams in the Big 12. It is how they've looked. Lifeless, man. They come out today without a single pulse and get their asses handed to them from start to finish. If you watch the end of that game, congratulations. You're one of the biggest Cincinnati Bearcats basketball fans in history, because I had to turn it off with 6 minutes to go. Disgusting.
I think a lot of Bearcats fans turned that game off. And it's really just the hype. I mean, we were talking about it earlier. The amount of takes that we had for the first 12 games of the season. Hey, this team could be a top 10 team. I mean, look at the talent, look at the depth. I've never been so wrong about a team. Unless Wes Miller can, figure out a miracle to turn this season around, this team looks bad, man. I mean, in our best guys, our bread and butter that we thought, the three-headed monster that we were going to call it, that's not there at all. I mean, the two guys that showed up today, they looked like they wanted to play. You could argue Aziz Bandago, Dan Skillings, and Day-Day. I feel like Day-Day's always fighting out there. Other than that, holy hell, what are you doing? What are we doing?
I don't know what the final numbers were, because, again, I turned it off with 6 minutes to go. But when I turned it off, it was 36-6 in the paint in favor of the Baylor Bears. Cincinnati in the game had 11 assists on 17 made field goals. 8 of 23 from three-point land, 34% from three, 34% from the field, 27 rebounds compared to Baylor's 29. So one of the strengths for Cincinnati, a reason you go big and hoped out physical a team like Baylor. No, I mean, Baylor was the much more physical team. Just one, they can actually beat a man off the dribble. They had players on their team that could split a defense, that could get into the teeth of the defense and then finish around the rim. Cincinnati, everything was difficult. There wasn't a single shot today until it was too late, when Dan had some decent looks that was easy. There was not a single shot that was easy. I mean, Jizzle doesn't go north-south. He's just going east-west. Dylan Mitchell at this point is who he is. And an alpha, someone that could take over a game offensively, that's not him. In spurts, he can make plays in transition and can make plays with his length and athleticism and affect the game that way. Connor Hickman's an absolute zero. He goes for 0 off the bench. They throw in CJ Frederick. Wes is like, you know what? I mean, at this point, he can't be any worse than Connor. And guess what? He is. I mean, he's just as bad. He's not an answer either. Arrington Page gives you nothing. We were all so excited about it because of the stars next to his name. But at a certain point, Arrington Page, when you look back on it, he was someone that, didn't really have good minutes for a bad USC team. I do still think there's upside there. I'm ranting and raving here, Houdini. because once again, I look, this has been kind of a theme of every single Wes Miller team. It's feast on the cupcakes in the non-conference. It's get to your conference schedule. And I go up and down the roster and I'm like, we're not good enough. But then someone on the Spaces said today, guys, we're making this excuse every year. The roster is good enough. Let's take a look in the mirror and address what the problem is. Hands up in the sky.
Wes Miller, well, unless the TQL guy brings the Brink truck over for $13 million that we would owe Wes Miller if we fire him after this season, good luck. It ain't happening. So this is what we're dealing with. Now, I can't figure this out. I really can't. We were a better team last year.
Because we had better players. I mean, it's as simple as that. Dude, we lost Jameel Reynolds. He was a competent inside scorer and replaced him with Arrington Page. Who's better? We lost Victor Locken, who could at least put the ball in the basket. And I get that it did not work towards the end of the season there. I'm not saying that. But you've seen with Clemson that he can at least put the ball in the basket. And then we also lost John Newman and replaced him with a hodgepodge of Connor Hickman and whoever the hell else it is. And people haven't taken the steps that they were supposed to take. Tyler Betsy can't hit a shot. Your big-time freshman. Rayvon Griffith had the red shirt to where we thought he could come in and give you some minutes. He doesn't play a single minute. This team is not better than last year. They're not.
Chuck, there's a reason that we were in the AP preseason poll and we're ranked for the first few weeks of the season because our roster is better. It just flat out is. We got rid of Jameel Reynolds. We barely played the guy. He was unplayable. Victor Locken ended up being unplayable. The only guy that we lost, credit to our guy, Josh Newman. Apparently he was.
Everyone was unplayable tonight. I mean, good God, what were you watching?
That's what I'm saying. We brought back Jizzle James, Seamus Lukosius, Aziz Bandago. We thought, hey, if we bring those guys back and bring in a guy like Dylan Mitchell, I mean, this team could be very good. On paper, yes. After what we've saw, Connor Hickman, he was the best player on Bradley. He averaged like 15 a game. He was shooting 40% from three. What happened to that?
Confidence.
Like, there's regression happened, and that's obviously got to be on Wes Miller too. But it's like, what happened to the players? Like Jizzle James has taken. I know Lily had a great write up on Bearcat Bunch about how he really hasn't regressed. If you look at the stats, the eyeball test tells me he certainly has. Every good team we've played, he's looked lost. He's not confident. He's taking harder shots than he even needs to. He's getting open early in his move sequence and then trying to force up a triple move. And he's all over the place. He's turning the ball over. He looks sloppy. I mean, I think the easy thing maybe is throw Day-Day in as the starting point guard and move Jizzle to the bench. Maybe he feels more comfortable there.
Who's your starting shooting guard? Who's your starting shooting guard? You got to keep going with this two big lineup where you have Dylan Mitchell and Aziz clogging up the paint. They can't do anything. I don't know. Just roster construction, man. We thought we had it figured out in the offseason. We thought that players like Hickman and Rayvon Griffith and Betsy, and we just thought certain guys were going to be better than they are right now. And there's a lot of season left, man. There's not reason to lose all hope. But based off what we've seen, I mean, there's nothing that tells me that we should believe in our head coach to turn this ship around to the point where we're going to be better than we were tonight. No doubt about it. But where we want to get to, and we're just asking for the NCAA tournament. It's a program that made 14 in a row under Huggins, then 8, 9 in a row under Cronin. We're just asking to get there. You could be a playing team, and your job is safe with me. And look, his job's safe regardless because of the whole money thing, like we said, Hudson. But this is a results-based industry, and we're now 4 years in, and I mean, this show, every time we come on, is just us talking about how we're miserable. We're just miserable.
It's just sad, man. It's just so sad because and granted, these teams, listen, the Kansas State loss, it's a bad loss. I know it won't technically be when it's all said and done from a Ken Palm, probably a Q2 loss as far as the net rankings. They just mentioned in the chat, Arizona, Niehaus. Arizona just beat West Virginia by 19 on the road. Arizona's going to be a really good team. To look like we've looked, though, we're going to be staring at 0-4. I mean, we think we're going to come out and beat Kansas on Saturday. Good luck. Good luck.
What if we do?
What if we do?
The metaphor's back on. But
It'll pull me
it'll
right back
pull
in.
right. Oh, he'll have me on the bait. I'll be like, we knew it all along. He'll make one little adjustment. He'll put like Mitchell at the 5, and we'll throw a Ravon in there, and it's like, oh my god, this was the missing piece all along. Get more athletic, as if we haven't been
Yeah.
just more athletic than every team we've played. I mean, dude, we get bullied in the paint. We're not strong enough. We don't have a body to get it to down low to play inside out basketball. We don't go north, south. I guess north in general. It seems like we're going sideways at all times. We're passing around the perimeter. We're not getting clean looks off assists. It's just ISO basketball, and our best ISO basketball player, so we thought, Jizzle James, has not been good. And no one's been great to pick him up.
You're right. We can't get by people. Day Thomas has been the only guy that can actually get by anybody, and he's too small to finish. Like Jizzle James, it's impossible for him to get by somebody. Seamoss can't get by anybody. Dan Skillings, if he didn't hit, he hit 5 of 7 threes tonight. That's not his game. If he wasn't hitting those, I mean, we would have had 30 points. It's like something's got to give. I don't know what. We could talk about the rotations all we want. When you go down the lineup, it's like, what's the answer? And obviously this stupid little 3-man weave motion offense at the top of the key where we just are stagnant. We shot 23 threes. What are we doing? We got outscored in the paint. I don't even know what the final number is.
Do you want to go inside? Aziz, the second he gets touched, he's falling forwards. That's not a good way to get your offense going. Like, dude, Wes has his back up against the wall because there aren't many other options. But at the end of the day, year 4, that's on the coach. That's all I'm trying to say. Like, someone's saying in the chat, that's not the one. Basically saying Jameel Reynolds was not good, Chuck. Maybe not. But who on the roster is great right now? That's all I'm saying. Like, we keep replacing players that we thought were bad with other players that we think are going to be better. And then those players that we replace that we thought were better are not actually better.
This roster could have used Jameel Reynolds specifically, or Victor Lockett, just a guy that can actually score with his back to the basket. Dylan Mitchell, we love what Dylan Mitchell is. He's got a lot of limitations. I mean, he put up 0 points today? Yeah, he had 0 points today, 2 boards. When he's not being able to just slash the middle and run and gun and get those alley-oops, he's basically a 0 on offense. He doesn't have a mid-range jump shot. He can't dribble well. He can't get by guys. So we're going to struggle in that department. And when I say points in the paint, Chuck, I'm talking about guys driving to the rim, which we have not been able to do. Just haven't been able to do it. Day Thomas, like I said, is the only guy that can get by his defender, and that's a massive problem.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Dylan Mitchell was going to be better than this, at least offensively. But at the same time, I mean, he's had some good performances this year, but that's he was good against Arizona. There was a stretch there where it was like, all right, Dylan Mitchell took over this game, so I don't want to overreact.
I still like Dylan Mitchell a lot.
I don't want to overreact to a singular game. My issue is it just feels like there's no offensive chemistry, and I don't know how you get that without hitting the portal, which you can't do mid-season. Like, we're stuck with what we have. I don't think there are any answers. I mean,
should we ask Dave Yost for an exception? Should we get a mid-season transfer portal haul?
Sean Abayev, could Dave Yost just go into Overtime Elite and say, Sean, you're ready. It's time. That's one guy that has me. I mean, it has me thinking that one's going to be hard to screw up. Like, that guy, just watching his tape, can put the ball in the bucket. And I don't understand how, even as a freshman, you can't at least rely on him to get his shot off. Because Baylor, there were points where they had 3 feet of separation out on the perimeter. They could have let a 23-footer be uncorked at any time. Like, Cincinnati doesn't even have any breathing room, man. Like, how many shot clock violations? First possession of the game, shot clock violation. I think there were 3 in the game. And it's because they can't get clean looks. They can't beat people off the dribble. Defenses are really extending the pressure, and it's kind of in your face. Let's see if you can beat me. And a lot of that's neutralized when you have, scoring options, which we just don't really have that playmaker. And we said that towards the end of last year. And what did we do in the transfer portal to find it?
Yeah. And what worries me, and somebody just mentioned in the chat, is guys like Tillery, Abayev, all these other, 18-year-olds, 17-year-olds watching, who the hell wants to go play for Wes Miller if that's what the offense looks like? I mean, that doesn't look like any fun. It's disgusting to even watch it on TV. Imagine playing in that offense. Like, it's just it looks bad to be in year 4, handpicked guys from Wes Miller. This is fully his roster, and to be this flat, and it doesn't look like we have a pulse. Like, even with the missed shots, right? We've been missing shots left and right, even wide open looks from guys that apparently can shoot the ball. Tonight, it was like 0 good looks, no separation. We had some Hail Mary threes from Dan Skillings that went down. That's about all our offense was. I mean, we were scratching and clawing we didn't even get to 50 points. What are we doing?
On the radio tonight, Terry Nelson said UC's terrible at setting screens to free up shooters. It's the fine margins of this game, right, that make a team better. And on paper, you look at this team, and I think you could plug in a lot of these players at other schools and they'd be successful. But for whatever reason, the construction, the cohesiveness of them all together right now is not working for whatever reason. And it felt that way for points of last year, and they shook things up. They started to go a little bit smaller at times and stop playing the 2 bigs, and it seemed to help. But the issue is, without that clear-cut number 2, just your shooting guard, a straight-up shooting guard to where you could play Dan at the 3 and Seamoss at the 4. You just don't really have it right now. You go up and down the roster. So that stuff matters. Dude, 34, 50%, because they were 6 of 12 from the free throw line. That's just, what are we doing?
You got to go. He has to try to go small. I know there's not a good option. He has to try to either put Dylan Mitchell at the 5 or take Dylan Mitchell out of the lineup and have Aziz at the 5. Do something. Go small. Put Rayvon Griffith in at the 4. I don't give a hell. Do something, because the reason I thought we might have matched up well against Baylor, which clearly was not the case, is that they play 2 bigs as well. So it's a very similar setup. They got 2 bigs out there. I thought we could match up well. We couldn't guard anything either tonight. I mean, we didn't even get into the defense. We looked lost on the defensive end too. So
Baylor's getting great looks. Baylor had how many? They had 36 points in the paint, at least. Again, I turned off the game early. I have no idea what the final number was. But 36 points in the paint, and they were not really contested, right? I mean, if Aziz is not – he's good at blocking shots from behind, give you that much. And, he plays hard out there. But in terms of protecting the rim, didn't do a good job of it tonight. Baylor was just the much more aggressive team.
Well, I know Jeremy Roach has been in college basketball for quite some time, but the difference between him and our guards was drastic. That guy, we need a guy like that. He can go get his own shot whenever you want. We don't have a single guy on this team that can do that. We kind of thought that coming into the season, but I didn't see the regression and granted, right, we're 3 games into conference play. This could turn around. We've seen Seamoss play against good competition, but he has been really bad, and so is Jizzle James. And if those 2 aren't playing well, this team doesn't have a shot, to be quite honest.
And the question is, because I said to Lily, we were talking about this, and I said, this is danger mode. We're looking at a 10-10 team in the Big 12, and he said, I'm highly confident that we will be over 10-10 in the Big 12. And do you feel confident that this is a better than 500 team? We're already in a 3-game hole, could be 4-game if you lose to Kansas. Now the schedule, it gets a lot more favorable after Murderers Row, to where you have Colorado, but it's on the road. You have Arizona State, you have Texas Tech, you have BYU. So you have 4 more winnable games at least. But based off everything we've seen, there's just, I don't know. They need to see some shots go down, and they just need some good mojo. A win over Kansas would be season saving. And I know it's asking a lot, Hudson. I know it's asking a lot. But when it comes down to it, the spread in that game will probably be like Cincinnati plus 3.5. I don't think it's plus 4.5. I don't think it's going to be that crazy.
I don't think so. And
that's why you hammer Kansas. The bookmakers would be making a mistake.
I took UC money line like a jackass. I just had to. I was like, if this ship's going down, I'm going down with it. And I sure as hell went down with it. But
you hit the iceberg at the under 16 timeout and just too soon.
Yeah, I didn't know the ship would sink that soon. But here we are. I mean, when you look at Arizona, Baylor, and Kansas, right? I think those 3 teams are going to finish in the top 5 or 6 of the Big 12. So let's not get it twisted. This is going to be probably our hardest stretch of the entire season. The competition is going to ease up a little bit. That's why you had to win at Kansas State, and we didn't. So that's why we're in the hole that we're in. Getting one of these 2 games, Baylor or Kansas, would flip this whole thing around. So, Wes, that's the easy fix. Beat Kansas at home.
We got from Steve Ross, UC never runs a play with a back cut. Wes Miller played at North Carolina where they used back cuts all the time. So you would think they'd try that style at least some of the time. It's just interesting how we never finish a game and say Wes coached masterfully. Like even against Xavier, our take after that game was, God, UC looked awful. How did we win that basketball game? And then against Dayton, it was just like, God, UC was swarming. They were physical. You could give Wes a lot of credit that he had them ready to play from an energy perspective, especially compared to the game against Baylor. But in terms of like a clean game plan to where they come in, and it's like Cincy was just a more prepared, better basketball team. I mean, it's been a rarity, and we're 4 years in, and this is a good basketball program. I believe that. Like when I would complain at the beginning of the Wes Miller era that it wasn't moving quick enough last year, you'd say, Chuck, this isn't 1998 anymore. Like temper your expectation. I still believe. I believe in this place. It's because you pack 12,000 into a stadium for a team that won 7 games in their conference the season before. Wake Forest isn't doing that, I don't think. You know, Virginia Tech, I don't think is doing that. Like some of these teams that are just very average, they don't have the fan support that Cincy has behind them, in my opinion, and that should mean something.
And you know what I want? I want Wes Miller to have a much shorter leash. He's a player's coach. I love it. He's clapping on the sidelines. Yeah, it's great. He's fired up. He's chewing a bunch of gum. I'm over it. When I saw Jizzle James just throw the ball to the other team, just literally down the court, just an entry pass right to the other team, scored whatever, it was a layup or a 3 on the other end. He needs to be subbed out immediately. Like I'm done doing this. You know, we're being the nice guy here. When you're playing that sloppy of basketball, you shouldn't be getting minutes. And I know Jizzle James, like he doesn't have to sit the rest of the game. I'm not a Bob Knight psycho over here, but he's got to get some Mick Cronin in him to get under his players and not allow them to play so sloppy. I mean, how many turnovers we have tonight? 15 turnovers.
The Mick Cronin yank was one of the all-time great things in Bearcat basketball history, where especially during his early years, where he'd go down the bench to Barwin or whoever it was. Someone would make a bad play and he'd turn, he'd point. He had that like power point and he'd get over here. Come on, get your ass in the game. We need more of that from Wes. But the issue is like, I thought we had all these bodies and we just don't, man. Like I was expecting more from Ravon. There's still time for him to figure it out, but this is the new college basketball where it does feel like if, you know, players haven't really figured it out a couple of years in, they're looking elsewhere.
Yeah, I'm kind of at a loss of words here. Yeah, I'm reading through the comments. Yeah, no player accountability. Yeah, we do need
from John White. Baylor's located in Waco, frickin' Texas. Like, how are they handling Cincinnati with such ease? I mean, we were a program. We were a player in this game. What was Baylor? They were dog trash. You know why they're not anymore? Coaching. I mean, look at forget West Virginia. I had a great example. Look at your guy, Pat Kelsey. Is that a little elder? Yeah. Look at what he's done in Louisville. He inherits the biggest dog shit program, just a dumpster fire, 90 miles away from Cincinnati. And year one already has them looking like a competent basketball team. He had it handed to him a lot worse than Wes Miller. And I don't want to make this the Wes Miller rag session because I want the dude to win. I would hate to fire a coach after this year, put the athletic department up in some debt because it's going to cost so damn much and have to start over with really no options. I mean, your move was 5 years ago or 6 years ago when you could have gotten Patino because he wanted an opportunity. He was sitting right there wearing Bearcats polos. I was begging for it, and they didn't want to touch the guy. So instead, they went with a guy that's now a painter. I mean, at the end of the day, it's tough, buddy. It's tough. Sorry about the rant, everyone.
No, I mean, you're speaking everybody's language right now. Wes Miller has not proven that he is a good basketball coach at all. He's got to turn this season around. And he's got to do it quickly. Starts on Saturday. Am I confident? No, because our offense looks lost. And like you said, looking down the roster, I don't know what the answer is. I do think at some point Rayvon Griffith needs to get in. He's not going to be averaging 15 a game or something, but maybe he'll provide some energy, some rebounding, do the little things, because nobody's doing a damn thing anymore on this team. I don't see how he can't get some minutes. That's the only guy you can kind of throw into the lineup and say, hey, maybe something happens, maybe it sticks.
What do you got for me, Houdini? I'm going down the notes, and again, one of the notes I took was Aziz dribbling up top like he's Rasheed Wallace on a play where he tried to get the dribble drive going and just got stripped immediately. I'm like, what the hell are we doing? My issue is the too big lineup, and then I put under it with an asterisk. Never mind, Day cooked inside because he's tiny and shouldn't be playing the shooting guard position. I mean, this is just where we are, man. And then I also put how much you think we paid Hickman. I hate ragging on people, but if any of these guys are making six figures, which I'm sure a lot of them are, I mean, at a certain point, it's gloves off, right? Like, this is our basketball program, man. As compared to anyone on this team, we've loved this team. Everyone in the chat has loved this team a lot longer than some of the players on it. And if you're not playing well, it's the end of the day, it's fair to criticize, I think, if players are making money. A long time ago, I didn't think this about this sport. You know, it was, hey, they're kids, you respect them, they're going to school to get an education and playing hard to represent your brand. But at the end of the day, they are the brand right now, and they're getting paid money to be the brand. If it's six figures, I mean, at a certain point, can we donate some of the six figures that we paid them to literally anything?
Well, Connor Hickman's like, what, 23? He's a great man. He could take it. And he's going to be the first person to say, I've been ass. I mean, he has been. And the weird thing is his threes have been so off. I mean, he hit the backboard first on a wide open three.
I'm telling you, man, confidence is an important thing in life. When you lose it, it's hard to get the mojo flowing. They're in a funk right now. It's why there's still a sliver of hope that they can turn it around and at least be better. I mean, the top 15 talk that we had, that's not there. I mean, this is not a top 15 basketball team. There's too many cracks in the foundation. But can this team be better than this? I believe so. It starts with the ball just going in the basket. It's as simple as that. And it's not going in. I mean, they can't buy a bucket.
No, absolutely. And the Aziz thing, Wes Miller, talk about a short leash. He needs to say, and I think Aziz has been just fine. I really have. If he dribbles the ball more than twice, he needs to be pulled out of the game. He should never be dribbling the ball more than twice. And that all that should be is a gather dribble to dunk. That is it. He was trying to cross over a guy at the 3-point line. Is that what Wes is drawing up? Is that what he was drawing up in the locker room before the game? Like, let's get Aziz on the perimeter. Like, what are we doing?
Can you look up the Mark Gray slump buster right now? I know it's something disgusting from Gray Bush Live, but you look that up while I run through the final stats. We got from Niehaus, Connor Hickman is reaching Chris McNeil status. I would argue that McNeil scored more points than Hickman has. I mean, Hickman's been putting up consistent 0 after 0, and man, he's had a lot of hype for him. And all these guys, they seem like great kids. That's why I hate absolutely bashing them. But at the end of the day, I'm dedicating how many hours of my life per week to this team. My job is to tell the truth. And the truth of the matter is they just kind of suck. And I can't put my finger entirely on what it is. It seems like a lot of different things, but it's the coach's job to figure it out. And we're year 4 in. Bandego had 11. Lukosius had 5. Jizzle James with 5. Dan Skillings had 18. Betsy had 1. Day Thomas had 6. Josh Reed had 2. And whoever came the closest to 48 wins a point, and 700s struggle for the stake. We hope it was our guy, Mo. Actually, Dan, a friend of the program, too. Mo or Dan. We'll take them getting the point tonight, hopefully. The Mark Gray slump buster. Do you have it for me?
I sure do. It's something we can look into. I don't think I could say it on air, Chuck. I don't know if I'll get canceled. I'll send it to you. Yeah, how about you say it?
Text it to me right now. You text it to me. We got Travis says UC needs a head coach. Back when Cronin left, Nick Van Exel was interested in coaching this team till the AD snuck in, got NKU's Brannon. I've heard from all sources that a plane was sent down to pluck Frank Martin from South Carolina. He was going to be our next head coach. A man that, took his team to the Final Four, but did struggle down the stretch and had some bad teams. But that was shot down by the president, and we went with John Brannon, who, by the way, did bring some good players to Cincinnati. I mean, Tari Eason, David DeJulius, Gabe Madsen. He brought in some dudes in the couple chances that he had. Javen Cumberland was nice. So let's not forget that. Let's also not forget that he took the team to a conference championship in his farewell tour. Like, literally got canned after he took the team to the conference championship. Now, context matters. They were awful that horrible year. The entire team quit on them. There were some other things we can't say. And also, most importantly, he literally walked off the court in the American Championship game with like 45 seconds to go and had the cameras getting him as Davenport and company were crying on the bench. So, yeah, I mean, sure, Wes has left it better than he's found it. But it's
long story short,
let me look at this Mark Grace.
John Cunningham is sweating right now.
I don't think so.
I would think
I'm starting to think Satterfield may, and by turn it around, I mean, I think they're going to make a bowl game if that's turn it around. But I do think that they're going to be better. Who would have thought that the roles would have reversed? Wes's pants are on fire, and Scott's got some size 36. He's got some slack in his pants.
Yeah, it's like I'm not even going to listen to the presser with Wes Miller. We know what he's going to do. We know what he's going to say. Just regurgitate that meme of him all pissed off at the presser. He's going to do that for the 4 straight games.
He's going to say, I believe. He's going to say, I believe in the talent we have. I believe in the guys we've had. He said it the last 3 years. And the last 3 years, I said, Wes, you're wrong. Like, your team's just not good enough. Like, you need to hit the portal harder in the offseason. But this may be the first time where I actually have some belief there. But it requires him,
Chuck,
changing it up. I don't even know how he changes.
Can you recall a season in which, granted, things can change. Well, this is the 3rd game in a Big 12 play. Things can change quickly. Do you recall a season where the expectations were this high and we just turned out to suck? Because I can't recall anything. I will say 2010, 2011, or make that 2011, 2012. The team that went to the Sweet 16, they started off abysmally. And they just had guys in the wrong roles. We were playing like Mooj and Jackson at the same time, and Yancey and Jackson at the same time. And the lineups just were not working. The space was clogged. We looked terrible. We were putting up 50 points against Presbyterian and against maybe Marshall and against Xavier. And they looked bad. The suspension forced them to go small. And they put Jaquan Parker in there at that 4 spot. And it really opened up things. But this team doesn't have a Jaquan Parker. I mean, they don't have a lot of things that those teams had. I look at the squad now, and I'm just wondering if they were as talented as we gave them credit for. And I don't know. And then you see Victor Locken go to Clemson and average what, like 14-8, and it's like he could succeed there. A team that made a run in the tournament last year. Like what's going on to where nothing seems to be working? Everyone we bring in from the portal ends up. I mean, aside from Landers, Nolly, I'd say everyone in the Wes Miller era, minus Nolly and Lukosius, have underperformed expectations significantly. The good news is, Chuck, I don't think it can get worse. The law of averages, at some point, somebody's got to, at the end of the day, somebody's got to knock down a shot. It's a make or miss league, as they say, right? Connor Hickman, what is he shooting? He's shooting. It's got to be even worse than this. I don't even believe this. Saying 27% from 3. Last year, he shot 40%, averaged just under 15. At some point, you would think. I mean, this isn't like he played one season. He played 3 years at Bradley, all at 40% from 3. Not quite at 40%, right? Or right under 40%. At some point, the law of averages, we have to start making shots, right? It can't get worse than what we've seen. So that's the only silver lining, is that just based on just stats, it has to go into our favor at some point.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't read the Mark Grace slump buster. You were right. When Hudson says I can't read it, dude, because he'll let it fly. I mean, he'll let it fly at any time. Maybe on the chatter, we'd be doing that. But Jason said it best. There's no dog on this roster. Day showed fighting them. Majority of this roster looks scared to take charge. It looks that way, man. It looks that way, and you hope someone steps up and changes things out there. But it's apparent right now that the loss of John Newman was pretty big, and Cincinnati's ability to just really get a free flowing offense going. Because right now it's tight. It's tight, and yeah. I mean, I think we were pretty easy on Wes, all things considering how mad I was at halftime with that performance. But I guess when you turn the game off with 7 minutes to go, you kind of forget how ugly it was.
Well, I think one of the kind of the saddest parts of this whole thing is that I'm becoming used to it. I'm becoming numb to it. Like, I feel like a couple years ago, this type of a loss, I'd be fuming, and I kind of expected it. I was like, after what we've seen, it's almost become the norm, which is not good. It is not good at all. This is a storied program, man. This is not what we're supposed to be doing. We didn't even look competitive tonight. If you want to talk all the shit you want about Mick Cronin, I can't recall many games where we just flat out didn't look competitive. And I don't think
here's
Baylor
the
is some
thing.
juggernaut.
Here's the thing. Everyone that's saying, "Oh, it takes so much time to get your feet under you." Sure, in terms of making the tournament and making a run, something like that, it may never happen. But in terms of just coming out and playing to your expectation level, even Cronin, maybe not consistently, but Cronin's second and third years, where he was undermatched in every single game, they would win home games against Villanova, Scotty Reynolds. They would win home games against Pittsburgh and in Notre Dame and Luke Herringody. Like, they would win some of those games that they weren't supposed to win just because they were the more aggressive team. They had a game plan. They stuck to it. They played hard and they played together. This team does not win games they're not supposed to win. Again, like, went into a game today, 4.5-point dogs to Baylor. I never felt like we had a chance from the opening tip-off. I'm like, we're going to get run off the floor. We got run off the floor. Just
how pressing. How about pressing right off the jump, right out of the gate? Because it seems to at least put some type of energy. And we can't. Our half court offense is. I mean, we're blind out there. We have no chance in the half court. Maybe that's it. Maybe we just start pressing the entire game.
Let me ask the chat. Let me ask the chat, and this is the last topic of the day. Because we are in January, and in January you don't talk about any sort of coaching changes because he's got a long way to figure it out. He's probably still on the close to the right side of the bubble, just based off the net and the metrics and the fact that we don't have any bad losses, that sort of thing. But the sky is falling in our world right now because we're seeing the exact same things over and over. But with what you've seen from this team, and you tell me in the chat right now, and maybe that there's a 0% chance, even if the team did go 7-13 in conference, that they would fire Wes Miller and they'd run it back because of the contract obligations and just because he appears to be on paper the right man for the job. But take away all that. You have the magic wand. You can do whatever you want. You're the AD. Do you feel confident moving forward in this conference with Wes Miller as the head coach? Simple question. Do you feel confident? If you say yes, you're wrong. Like, statistically speaking, I'm a stats guy. You're wrong. You can't feel confident. You can have faith, but you can't feel confident.
I mean, so yeah, they're Gray Bush Live is saying that they need a players only meeting. I'm trying to think of those stupid gimmicks that people do when they go on a losing streak.
Huggins kicked him out of the locker room.
Yeah, maybe we need somebody to sock somebody in the middle of a game. That seemed to reinvigorate the season that year. Maybe put a ping pong table in the facility. I know the Bengals were doing that. They were putting a ping pong table in. They were taking a ping pong table out. We need to try everything. We need magic happening in that locker room, but something needs to drastically change. Or, I mean, right now it looks like we're looking at NIT type stuff, dude. Like, truly. Like, the NCAA tournament, based on how we played, doesn't even seem like it's going to be a possibility based on what we've seen this offense do. So we got to try something, man.
Every single person that had an answer in the chat said no. In terms of, do you trust Wes Miller moving forward? in the future. So, last things on the plus side, Baylor changed the camera angle. Yes, they did. It does feel kind of weird being like the bye team in a power conference because it does feel that way. Does it not? Like if you're Baylor, if you're Arizona, if you're Kansas, if you're pretty much anyone, like I would imagine that Cincinnati coming in is in the same realm as like Kansas State, Oklahoma State, West Virginia. I mean, Oklahoma State, the clear doormat. But there's like a crop of teams that it's like, all right, we should probably win this game. And we're one of them. And it sucks, man. It sucks. We got from John White, Cronin was the last vestige of UC hoops, and we were tired of it. I would take him back in a heartbeat right now. Mix a hell of a coach. Mix a hell of a coach, man.
I was just saying like 3 weeks ago, I think we got the best coach in the country. And I believed it. I really did. And listen, we don't want to make this the rag on West show, even though it basically has been. He's got time to turn it around. Does it look good? No, it doesn't. It certainly does not. I was saying the sky's falling. I said there's cracks in the foundation after we lost to Arizona. We just lost the whole west wing of the house. The ceiling collapsed over there. So we're trying to make do with what we have right now. So we got to figure something out. And really the only reason I'm optimistic is because you have to be. I'm going to watch all these games regardless, dude. Like, it seems like this is just what Cincinnati fandom is, regardless of sport. But I just pray to God that Wes can pull a rabbit out of his hat and turn this thing around, man, because I need it for my mental sake. And I know you do too, Chuck. Don't lie to yourself.
Sean Abayev can't get here soon enough, but unfortunately we said the same thing about Rayvon Griffith. We said the same thing about Jizzle James. We said the same thing about Tyler Betsy. And we have all those guys, and not much has changed, and plenty of time to figure it out for this team. Unfortunately, they got Kansas up next. So an 0-4 start in the Big 12 is seriously on the horizon. And for those of you that put in the Cats futures to win the Big 12, because that was a popular bet, it's over. Just rip up the ticket. It's done. Like, it's done. 3 games in. Iowa State's probably not going to lose 3 games.
No, that dream is dead and gone. And now I'm just fighting to finish in the middle of the pack right now. And it starts on Saturday. God, this game would have been so much better if we weren't going into it 0-3. I mean, this would have been the best home game in recent history at Fifth Third Arena. It would have been the best game at Fifth Third Arena, the new Fifth Third Arena. And now it seems like it's an afterthought. I don't even know how many people are going to go to the damn game.
It's going to sell out, but there's going to be barbarians going through the gate is what's going to happen. There's going to be a lot of booze consumed before that game. And if they come out flat with 0 fight like they showed tonight, that place is going to burn down. I mean, there are going to be so many boos in there because here's the thing. Wes Miller is a very popular coach despite not doing anything. That's just factual. I mean, John Brannon, we threw him out of town the second season. And again, there were circumstances there. Those circumstances matter. But Mick Cronin was an alum, a Cincy native, a GCL guy. Year 3 or year 4, like there were people talking about him being on the hot seat. And Wes Miller just seems like he has the world's longest leash for a coach that's never won a game in the NCAA tournament and has never taken our program to the NCAA tournament. We're afraid that North Carolina, the bluest of blue bloods, is going to pluck the guy, and he's getting his ass beat every single night. And I get it. The players play. You can't put all this heat on the coach. I'm just tired of watching the same thing. And I feel like there needs to be a scapegoat. And unless you want me to go off on 18-year-olds because they're not good enough, the guy that's making $2.5 million is probably the guy that you should direct your frustration towards at the end of the day. And he'd be the first to tell you that.
100%. Well, Wes picked the players. So it really does all fall onto the coach. You certainly can't. I mean, I guess nowadays you can fire players. You can just be like, yeah, we don't want you anymore. So I guess that saying doesn't work anymore. But he's the guy that handpicked the players. So at the end of the day, this is on Wes Miller's head. He's very aware of it, I'm sure. But regardless, again, if we fire him after this year, we owe him $13 million. So whether you like it or not, Wes Miller is coaching this team. And Sean Abayev, you mentioned Jizzle James, Rayvon. He is nothing like any of those guys. He wasn't putting up 50 at Overtime Elite day in and day out. He is a different animal. I would love to see if you just injected him into this offense, what would happen right now. Like he might be our best
He's just
player
timid.
offensively.
No, I mean, he may just be timid.
He
He may just
misses
be
every
timid.
shot.
He misses every shot. He doesn't know how to get a shot off the dribble. You watch the tape now, and it's like that guy can get a 30-foot step back off at any time and bury it at a 50% clip. He's going to put on the Bearcat blocks, and all of a sudden he's going to be shooting 16% from downtown. That's the danger to me when you focus solely on recruiting. Like there was someone in the spaces earlier talking about, we got Abayev, we got Tillery coming in. Who says, I mean, I think Abayev based on the tape alone, like he just looks like a blue chip. But who says that Tillery's going to be anything? You know, we thought the same thing about Rayvon coming in. Like we do not know about any of these guys, and that is the issue with pointing to recruits. If recruits mattered, Josh Pastner would be in the Hall of Fame. Instead, he was a one-hit wonder at Georgia Tech that's well known for that COVID face mask and someone that, you know, left Memphis to die for.
Jeez, I hope nobody, family members of Josh Pastner, just got an absolute ricochet shot from the clouds. Sorry for that if you're listening. But yeah, no, you're right, dude. You can't rely on freshmen either. I mean, we've seen that time and time again. Like, it's very rare that a freshman's going to come in and make a serious impact. I think Abayev will immediately, at least offensively, provide some type of a spark because this team can't hit a damn thing to save their lives. And somebody mentioned in the chat, too, no name in here, that the reason we're shooting all these threes is because we can't get by anybody. We got no interior offense. We got no back-to-the-basket scorer. That certainly isn't on this roster, a back-to-the-basket scorer, which should have been addressed in the offseason, and Wes Miller didn't. He dropped the ball there.
Final numbers for the Big 12 tonight. Iowa State 82, Utah 59. Iowa State is legit. Arizona clobbers West Virginia 75-56 in Morgantown. And Oklahoma State beats Kansas State 79-66. So for all the people out there that say, oh, Oklahoma State's the doormat at this conference, they just waxed Kansas State, who looked pretty good against Cincinnati and in fact beat us in Manhattan. So there's no bye games in this conference. We're going to see, man. We're going to see. And I find it hard to believe if this team is just awful that we will run it back. Like you talk about buyouts, there's no amount of money that this alumni base would not put up to get winning basketball back. I truly believe that. And if you go 4-16 in this conference, 4-16, that's the bar. If West goes 5-15, he keeps his job. Anything below 4-16, or let's go 6-14. That's the number. I'm up in it because that's worse than last year, but barely 6-14. You go anything worse than 6-14, like I don't understand how you'd have a job. I don't understand how a serious basketball program would let that happen.
Let's talk about that if that time comes. I can't even wrap my brain around going 6-14 in the conference after coming in as like the 22nd ranked team in the country. Holy hell, that would be bad. That would mean we're the bye team, Chuck. You said no bye games. That would mean we are now the bye game. And I refuse. I know we've looked so bad, just ugly in basically every aspect of the game. I refuse to believe we're this bad. I can't imagine that this, when the season's all said and done, that we're looking at, bottom 4 position in the Big 12. I pray it's not true.
Mid-season expectations have changed. It's just get to 500 in the conference and sneak in the tournament. Avoid that matchup in Dayton. And quite frankly, if you get to Dayton, I think fans would be ecstatic after what we've seen to start this season. If you haven't tuned into the games and have just been looking at the box scores, it's worse than it looks, quite frankly. It is worse than it looks because they played Kansas State to the buzzer. They played Arizona until the very end. But it's tough to win basketball games when you can't score, and this team's going to struggle to score down the stretch of every single game. We haven't even talked about the Hackett-Dillon component, but it's a Tuesday, man. You got things to do, places to be, people to see. Everyone, we appreciate it. This is Chatterbox Bearcats. If you're watching the YouTube version, subscribe to the audio portion wherever you get your audio podcast, or just wherever you get your audio podcast. Google it as well. It'll pop up, and make sure you're subscribed to the show that way because we do have breaking news. We have midweek shows, Lily and Niehaus coming at you later in the week. So make sure that it's delivered right to your feed. Final words, Houdini.
Thoughts and prayers to not only Chuck and myself, but to the entire fan base. We deserve better.
We do. See you, everyone.